You look beautiful in this light.
Oh, really? Is that why you keep staring?
You seem very relaxed today. Is it just the coffee, or am I finally charming you?
It's definitely you. The coffee helps, though.
It all started so perfectly. I remember the mornings, waking up early, sipping my coffee, and heading off to work with a clear mind. It was routine, peaceful, simple. I didn't have the most glamorous job, but I had a reputation. People liked me. I was reliable, trustworthy, the kind of person people turned to when they needed something done right. My boss, Mr. Walker, trusted me. My colleagues respected me. And then, of course, there was Samantha. My best friend. She'd been by my side for years, ever since I first started at the company. We shared lunch breaks, inside jokes, and long, late-night talks about our hopes, our dreams. She was like family. But the truth, the one that would unravel everything, was something I never saw coming. The day everything changed started like any other. I had just finished a presentation for the team, something I'd put my heart and soul into. The feedback was good, positive, even. I was walking on air, thinking maybe this would finally be the year I got promoted. But as I walked back to my desk, a sharp, unexpected tension filled the air. "Mark," Mr. Walker called out. His voice was tight, like he was holding something back. I stopped in my tracks, my stomach sinking. "Yeah, Mr. Walker? Can you come to my office for a moment?" I nodded, my heart pounding as I followed him to his office. I had no idea what was coming next. As soon as I sat down, Mr. Walker closed the door behind him, locking it. I raised an eyebrow. That's when I knew something wasn't right. "Mark," he began, looking at me with a mix of disbelief and concern, "we have an issue. A serious one." I blinked, trying to piece together the puzzle. "What do you mean? Did something go wrong with the presentation?" He shook his head, and that's when the blow landed. "I've received some serious complaints about you. Apparently, you've been tampering with company data, Mark. You've been altering numbers to make projects look better than they actually are." My throat went dry. "What? That's impossible." But even as the words left my mouth, I knew there was no way to explain. The accusation was clear, precise, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. "I don't know where this is coming from," I said, trying to make sense of it. "I would never do that." Mr. Walker didn't seem convinced. He was looking at me like he was trying to figure out if I was lying or if I had genuinely lost my mind. "I have no choice, Mark," he said quietly. "This is serious. I'm going to have to let you go. You're dismissed from the company effective immediately." I sat there in stunned silence. My mind was racing. How could this be happening? How could anyone think I would do something like that? "I've already spoken to HR. They'll arrange for you to collect your things and escort you out." Mr. Walker's voice was distant now, like he was already done with me. I stood up slowly, my legs shaky. "You can't be serious. You've known me for years. You know I would never." "I'm sorry, Mark," he cut me off, his face unreadable. "But the evidence is there." I walked out of his office in a daze, barely registering the murmurs of my colleagues as they watched me leave. Some looked sympathetic, others uncertain, but all of them seemed to back away as I passed. It wasn't until I was standing outside the office building, my personal items in a box in my hands, that it hit me. I was done. I stumbled to my car, fighting back the panic that clawed at my chest. My mind couldn't stop racing. What had happened? Who could have planted such lies? I had no enemies. I had always worked hard, been loyal. I had trusted the people around me, especially Samantha. Samantha. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. That was unusual. She always answered my calls. I left a message, desperate for an explanation, hoping that maybe she had some sort of insight into what had happened. But something inside me, something cold, told me I might already know the answer. I spent the next few hours in a blur, pacing around my apartment, staring at the phone, waiting for some kind of word. But nothing came. I decided to go to her apartment. When I arrived, I knocked on the door. She opened it with that same warm smile I'd seen 1,000 times. But this time, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "Hey, Mark. What's going on?" she asked, her voice cheery, but there was a slight tremor in it I didn't recognize. "I need to talk to you," I said, walking past her into the apartment. I couldn't wait any longer. The truth had to come out. "What's going on with the company, Sam?" "I'm done. They fired me. They said I tampered with data. They think I falsified information." Her face went pale, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw something close to fear in her eyes. She swallowed hard, not meeting my gaze. I don't know what to say, Mark," she stammered. "That doesn't sound right." "You don't know what to say?" I felt my blood run cold. "You've known me for years. You know I would never do something like that. Did you know about this? Did you have anything to do with it?" Her silence was deafening. I stared at her, searching her face, looking for any sign of guilt. Finally, she exhaled slowly. "Look, I didn't mean for things to get this far." My heart dropped. "What do you mean?" "I didn't think it would backfire like this, Mark. It was just supposed to be a way for me to get ahead. I didn't think you'd get caught." It hit me like a punch to the gut. "You, what? You set me up?" "I didn't think it would go this far," she repeated, her voice shaking now. "I thought I could use the situation to my advantage, but I didn't mean for it to hurt you." I stumbled back, feeling the world around me collapse. My best friend, the one person I trusted most in the world, had betrayed me. She had destroyed my reputation, my career, all for her own gain. I couldn't even speak. I just turned and walked out of the apartment, my heart broken, my life shattered. Samantha had done this. The one person I had trusted. And now, everything I had worked for was gone. The shock from what had happened began to fade, but in its place, something worse took root: disbelief. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Samantha had betrayed me. She wasn't just a friend, she was the one person I had trusted with everything. And now, she was the reason my life was falling apart. It didn't make sense at first. How could she have done this? Why would she ruin my career, my reputation, everything I'd worked for? But as the days passed, I began to piece things together. I was no detective, but the pieces fell into place eventually. I sat alone in my apartment one night, staring at my phone. A text from Samantha blinked on the screen. "I'm sorry things turned out this way, Mark. I never meant for it to get this bad. Let's talk when you're ready." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. She was still trying to act like the victim in all of this. How could she be so damn calm? I ran my hand through my hair, the weight of everything pushing me down. The betrayal was too much to bear. It felt like I had been living in a lie, trusting the one person who'd been stabbing me in the back the whole time. I had to confront her. I had to hear it from her mouth. I grabbed my keys, determined to get the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I drove to her place, trying to steady my breath. As I parked outside, I hesitated. The world felt wrong. I couldn't believe this was happening. When she opened the door, her face softened. "Mark, I've been trying to call you," she said, as if everything was fine. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "What did you do?" I demanded, my voice sharp and unrecognizable even to me. She blinked, feigning surprise. "What do you mean?" "I haven't done anything." "Don't lie to me, Sam," I spat, my fists clenching at my sides. "I know you've been spreading rumors about me at work. I know you've been painting me as some kind of incompetent fool. You set me up, didn't you?" She froze for a moment, then gave a small, uncomfortable laugh. "Mark, that's ridiculous. Why would I do that?" "Why?" I echoed, disbelief turning to anger. "I don't know, Sam. Maybe because you wanted my job. Or maybe because you didn't care about me at all. That's the only explanation that makes sense. You've been manipulating everyone, making them think I'm some kind of failure. You've been poisoning their minds, and now my career's destroyed." She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes flicking to the side, avoiding my gaze. "Mark, you don't understand. I was just trying to survive. This place is cutthroat. You know that. I didn't want to hurt you. It just happened." "You didn't want to hurt me?" I laughed bitterly. "Well, guess what? You did. You destroyed me. My life is ruined because of you." I was shaking now, the weight of it all crashing down on me. The tears I had been holding back for days threatened to spill, but I wasn't going to let her see me break. "I never meant for it to get this far," she said softly, looking almost like she regretted it, almost. But it wasn't enough. I couldn't forgive her for what she had done. "So, what? You thought I wouldn't find out? You thought you could do all this and just walk away unscathed?" She sighed and sat down, rubbing her temples. "I didn't think it would go this far, okay? It wasn't supposed to be this bad. I just needed things to go my way. You were always in the way, Mark. You were always so good, always so perfect. I couldn't keep up. I didn't think anyone would notice." I stared at her, disbelief giving way to crushing sadness. "You were my best friend," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I trusted you. And you stabbed me in the back." "Mark," she said, standing and walking toward me, "I'm sorry. I didn't know it would hurt you like this." But the apology didn't reach me. The words felt empty, hollow, like they had been rehearsed. "I don't want to hear it," I muttered, turning away. I couldn't look at her anymore. "You've already taken everything from me. What else is there to say?" She stood in silence, and for a moment, I thought she might actually apologize. But she didn't. Instead, she just stood there, watching me as I walked out of her apartment, my life slipping away, piece by piece. The days that followed were a blur. I lost everything. I didn't know what was worse, losing my job or the look on my colleagues' faces when I showed up to collect my things. Some pretended to offer sympathy, but it was clear. They didn't believe me. The whispers followed me as I packed up my desk. Some were loud, others not so much, but I heard enough. "Did you hear what happened to Mark? I always thought something was off about him. You can't trust anyone these days." My stomach churned. Each word, each stare was a reminder of how far I had fallen. I'd been replaced by a lie Samantha had crafted, and now, it was everyone's truth. I tried calling a few of my closest friends, but they didn't pick up. I couldn't blame them. Who would want to be associated with someone like me? The person they once trusted had become the very thing they feared, the incompetent liar, the office failure. It wasn't just my job I lost, it was everything. My identity, my purpose, my sense of self. All of it had been ripped away, and I had no idea how to get it back. It was a struggle just to get out of bed in the mornings. The quiet in my apartment felt suffocating, and every time I thought of my past, I felt like a stranger. One night, I decided to reach out to one of my old friends, Dave. He'd been the one person who always had my back, the guy who'd stuck by me through thick and thin. I didn't want to believe he would turn his back on me, too. When I called, he picked up on the first ring. "Mark? Man, where have you been? I've been trying to get a hold of you." I don't know what's going on, Dave. I'm sorry. Everything's falling apart. I could feel the desperation in my voice. There was a long pause before he spoke again. "Look, I've heard some things. People are saying you messed up. They're saying you were involved in some shady stuff with the numbers. You know I gotta believe what people are saying, right?" I felt like I had been punched in the gut. "You're just going to believe that? After everything we've been through?" "I don't know, man. I'm just trying to be honest with you." The line went silent. The world felt colder with every second. "You've got to be kidding me," I whispered. "I can't believe this. I'm sorry, Mark. I just don't know what to believe anymore." And with that, he hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand. I couldn't breathe. The world had just confirmed what I'd already known. I was alone. Everyone was turning their backs on me, just like Samantha had turned her back on me. The pain of the betrayal was so sharp it felt like it would kill me. But it wouldn't. Instead, it would make me stronger. I wasn't done yet. I wasn't going to let this end with me broken and defeated. I didn't know how or when, but I would make Samantha pay for what she'd done. It was a slow descent. Each day, it felt like I was sinking further into a void I couldn't escape. The world outside seemed to keep spinning, but I had stopped moving with it. I spent my days staring at walls, not even bothering to leave the apartment most of the time. What was the point? I had no job, no reputation, no future. The people I'd trusted had abandoned me, and the one person who had meant everything had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Samantha had taken everything from me, and I had nothing left to give. I lay in bed most days, the silence deafening. I had stopped answering calls and texts. My friends? Gone. My family? They didn't know what to say. I didn't blame them, but the loneliness gnawed at me. I wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all, to shake someone, anyone, and make them understand. But there was no one to hear me. The job hunt was futile. I had no chance of finding anything worthwhile with the stain of what happened at my old company hanging over me. I tried to network, sent out resumes, but no one took me seriously anymore. The rumors had spread faster than I could have ever imagined. Everywhere I went, I could feel the judgment, the whispers. I could almost hear their voices. "That's the guy who faked the numbers. He was always too good to be true." I didn't know how much longer I could keep going. My self-worth had crumbled, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. The weight of the betrayal felt like an anchor pulling me down, dragging me further into despair. That was when the doorbell rang. At first, I ignored it, not bothering to get up. Who could possibly be at my door? No one cared anymore. But then the knocking came, louder this time. I dragged myself out of bed and stumbled to the door, half expecting to find some charity worker or someone trying to sell me something. When I opened it, I found a familiar face standing there, Daniel. I hadn't seen him in years. We used to be close back in college, but over time, we drifted apart. He was always one of those guys who could charm his way into any room, but he was never fake. He was real, unlike the people I had come to know recently. "Mark," he said, his eyes scanning me with a mix of surprise and concern. "You look like hell." I didn't even bother to pretend to be okay. "You're not wrong," I muttered. "Come in." Daniel stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his eyes taking in the mess of my apartment. "You've been spiraling, huh?" I didn't respond. What was there to say? He wasn't the first person to notice. Hell, at this point, everyone could see how far I'd fallen. "Listen, Mark," he started, sitting down on the couch across from me, "I know what's been going on. I've been following the mess at your old job. It's a shit show, man. But you don't have to keep wallowing in this. You've got more in you than this." I gave him a bitter laugh. "What more could I possibly have, Daniel? My whole life's a joke. I was a pawn in someone's game, and now I'm left with nothing. You still have your integrity, don't you?" He looked at me, waiting for my response. I wanted to snap back at him, to tell him that integrity didn't pay the bills or put food on the table. But instead, I let out a sigh and slumped into the chair. "What do you want, Daniel? You think you can just swoop in and fix everything? Because it's too late for that." He leaned forward, his voice lowering. "I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to offer you a chance. A chance to rebuild. I know things seem bleak right now, but I've been watching you. I've seen your work ethic, your integrity. It's rare and it's valuable." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" Daniel's eyes grew more intense, as though he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. "You're too good for the company you worked for, Mark. Too honest, too loyal. You think that kind of thing is rewarded? In the real world? It's not. In fact, it's a liability." I felt a pang of anger shoot through me. "So what? You're telling me I should have played the game? Lied, cheated, done whatever it took?" Daniel's expression softened, but his words were firm. "I'm not saying you should have done that. But the world doesn't care about your integrity. It rewards those who know how to play. The people who get ahead are the ones willing to do whatever it takes, regardless of who they step on. You've been left behind because you haven't been willing to step on anyone." I stood up, my fists clenched. "So, what, you think I should just give up everything I believe in? That's the only way to succeed?" Daniel didn't flinch. "Not give up everything. Just be willing to bend the rules. Play the game. You're sitting on a mountain of potential, Mark, but you're letting it rot because you're stuck in some idealistic dream. What I'm offering you is a chance to rebuild. To make them regret what they did to you." I stopped pacing, turning back to face him. "What do you mean, make them regret it?" Daniel stood up and walked toward me, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "I have connections. People who can help you. But there's a catch. I'm not offering you a clean slate. I'm offering you a way to make things right. To get back at them, Samantha, your old company, everyone who screwed you over." I felt the heat rise in my chest. My mind was spinning. I had thought about revenge before, but this was something else. This wasn't just about making things right. This was about taking back control. "You're saying you can help me get back at Samantha and the company?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Daniel nodded. I can help you get what you're owed. But it's not going to be pretty. You'll have to make sacrifices. You'll have to do things that will make you question who you've become. But in the end, you'll have everything you deserve. I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the anger, the betrayal, the desperation inside me. But there was also something else, a spark. A desire to take back control. A desire for revenge. I looked Daniel in the eye. What's the catch? He smirked. The catch? The catch is that you'll never be the same again. But if you want a chance to rebuild your life and show everyone who doubted you just how wrong they were, then you'll have to be willing to do whatever it takes. I hesitated, my mind swirling with possibilities. The easy path was gone. I couldn't just go back to my old life. But the harder path, the path of revenge. It was starting to look more and more tempting. All right, I said, my voice cold and determined. Let's do it. I'll take your offer. Daniel smiled, a look of approval in his eyes. I knew you had it in you, Mark. Welcome to the real world. As he walked out of the door, I stood there in silence. I had made my decision. It wasn't about redemption anymore. It was about taking back what was mine, and making them all pay for what they had done to me. It wasn't easy. Nothing about this was ever going to be easy. But I knew I had no other choice. When Daniel made his offer, I had no idea what I was stepping into. His connections weren't what I had expected. He didn't give me a cushy job or a golden ticket to success. No, it wasn't that simple. Instead, he gave me a challenge. He opened doors, sure, but I had to crawl through them on my own. And crawl I did. I started with menial jobs, stuff I'd never even considered before. A part-time gig at a small office. Then a second job, delivering packages in the dead of night. I kept my head down, did the work, and kept my anger in check. All the while, I watched from the sidelines as Samantha and the people I once called friends kept climbing the corporate ladder, oblivious to the devastation they'd caused. It ate at me, piece by piece. Each time I saw a new post on LinkedIn or an announcement about a promotion, I felt the sting. Samantha's name kept popping up, glowing in the light of her success. She had everything she wanted, the world thinking she was the hardworking, smart, reliable employee, everything I used to be. The betrayal was sharper now. Watching her thrive while I struggled to make ends meet twisted something deep inside me. But it wasn't the anger that drove me anymore. It was the cold, hard truth, I was better than this. I was better than the way they'd treated me. But I couldn't let my anger blind me. I had a plan now, and it wasn't just about revenge. It was about proving to myself that I could rise above it all, that I could be the person I was always meant to be, without relying on anyone but myself. I spent my days working, my nights thinking. Thinking about the mess I had left behind, the life that used to be mine. Some nights, I could still hear their voices, the ones who had whispered behind my back, judging me before they even knew the truth. I heard Mr. Walker's calm, detached voice telling me I was finished. I heard the coldness in Samantha's apology, how her words had meant nothing. But it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't a failure. That I didn't need anyone's validation. I was doing something now. I wasn't just lying around and waiting for life to throw me a bone. One day, as I was finishing a delivery, I ran into an old colleague, Karen, from the marketing department. She was one of the few who had actually been decent to me. I almost didn't recognize her at first. She looked different. Her outfit was sharp, her hair was neatly styled, and there was a glint of success in her eyes. It was obvious she was thriving in her career. "Mark," she asked, her voice full of surprise. "Is that you?" I nodded, trying not to cringe at the awkwardness of it all. "Yeah, Karen. It's me." She looked me over, her brow furrowed slightly, and I could tell she was trying to place me in the context of the person she used to know. "What are you doing here?" She glanced at the package in my hand. "Just doing some deliveries," I said, forcing a smile. "Not exactly the career I imagined, but it's something." There was an uncomfortable pause. Karen seemed to hesitate before speaking. "I'm sorry about what happened, Mark. I really am. You didn't deserve any of that. I don't know what went on behind the scenes, but I know you. You were always one of the hardest workers I knew. What happened wasn't your fault." The words stung, but they were different than the ones I had grown used to hearing. They felt like a sliver of something, compassion. A rare commodity these days. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too little, too late. The apology didn't change anything. It didn't undo the damage. "Thanks, Karen," I said, forcing a grin. "But it's all in the past now. Gotta keep moving forward, right?" She nodded slowly, but I could tell she didn't believe me. "Yeah, but if you ever need anything, you know where to find me." I didn't say anything else. I just turned and walked away, feeling the weight of those words sink deeper into me. It wasn't enough. Not by a long shot. Her apology didn't fix anything. It wasn't going to give me my old life back. As weeks turned into months, the work kept coming. Small jobs, odd tasks. But with every job, I learned. I worked harder than I ever had before. The pain of watching Samantha and my former colleagues rise in their careers wasn't the drive anymore. No, now I was working for something bigger. I was working for my own pride, my own sense of worth. I kept my eyes on the prize, success, not for anyone else, but for me. One evening, while I was working late on a freelance marketing project Daniel had set up for me, I finally realized the truth. The revenge I had been plotting wasn't really about taking down Samantha or the company. It was about proving to myself that I could succeed. That I could make it on my own without depending on anyone else's approval or betrayal. I could feel it in my bones now. I was on the path to something. But it wasn't just about the money or the fame. It was about my own redemption. About building something from the ashes of the life I'd lost. And maybe, just maybe, it was about showing those who had wronged me that I didn't need their validation to succeed. I wasn't the broken man I used to be. I was becoming someone new. Someone stronger. I wasn't sure when it happened, but somewhere along the way, the pain of the past began to fade into something else, a driving force. The pieces were falling into place. One step at a time. And when the time came, when everything was ready, I would make my move. But this time, it wouldn't be about ruining someone else. It would be about building something that was all mine. Something no one could take away. I wasn't done yet. And I wouldn't stop until I had everything I deserved. I had been rebuilding, brick by brick, as quietly as I could. Every day, I worked harder than I ever had, learning new skills, and keeping my head down. The world didn't care about my pain. No one had asked if I was okay when I'd fallen apart, so why should I expect them to care about my rise? I was doing this for myself, no one else. But it didn't stop me from watching. I kept tabs on Samantha from a distance. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still playing the game, still climbing, still thriving off the destruction she'd caused. I had thought, for a while, that maybe I could let go of my obsession. That I could just move on, Forget her, forget the pain she'd caused. But something in me kept pulling me back. Every time I saw her name pop up, on social media, in corporate newsletters, in casual office gossip, I felt a gnawing urge to expose her for what she truly was. I had to know for sure. I had to gather the evidence. And so, I did. It started with casual observation, catching snippets of conversations, seeing how she interacted with people when she thought no one was watching. It didn't take long to notice patterns. Samantha didn't just whisper rumors behind people's backs. No, she was actively sabotaging her coworkers, working behind the scenes to ruin their careers, slowly but surely, as she climbed her way to the top. It was subtle at first. She'd use her charm to convince people to take the blame for things she'd done. She'd throw them under the bus in meetings, shifting the blame away from herself. And when she wasn't sabotaging people, she was ingratiating herself with higher-ups, making sure they saw her as the golden child. Everyone around her was a pawn in her game, and I was beginning to realize just how deep the rabbit hole went. One afternoon, I overheard a conversation between her and one of the senior managers, Derek, just outside the office kitchen. I had always thought Derek was one of the few decent people at the company, but after this, I wasn't so sure. I don't know if I can trust him, Samantha was saying, her voice low and conspiratorial. He's always been a bit too independent, you know? I think we might need to start looking for someone to replace him. I stopped in my tracks, leaning against the doorframe, trying not to be seen. She was talking about Kevin, one of the senior analysts. Kevin had been with the company longer than anyone, and now Samantha was making plans to get rid of him. I'll keep an eye on him, Derek replied. But you're right. We don't need someone who's going to rock the boat. Exactly, Samantha said, and I could almost hear the smirk in her voice. It's better to keep people in line. And you know how to handle that. Derek chuckled. I'll handle it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This wasn't just office gossip. This wasn't just some petty rivalry. This was deliberate, calculated manipulation. She wasn't just after my job, she was sabotaging everyone she came into contact with, making sure that no one could stand in her way. I had seen enough. It was time to take action. For the next few weeks, I started to gather information on Samantha's other victims. Kevin, of course, was one of the first. I talked to him as much as I could without making it obvious, digging for clues about what had been happening behind his back. He was hesitant at first, unsure if he could trust me. But after a few conversations, it became clear Samantha had been undermining his work for months. She'd taken credit for his ideas, stolen his presentations, and convinced their boss to give her the lead on a major project that he had been working on for a year. I wasn't the only one noticing. There was another woman, Hannah, who worked in the office. She had always been quiet, more reserved than most, but she had a sharp eye. I started talking to her, asking about the office dynamics. At first, she was hesitant, but over time, she warmed up to me. One afternoon, she caught me alone in the break room, looking over some files I had managed to sneak from the office. Mark, she said, her voice soft but urgent, I've noticed what's going on. I looked up, startled. What do you mean? Hannah hesitated for a moment before speaking again. Samantha. I know what she's doing. I've seen her manipulate people, make them look bad just to make herself look better. I've watched it happen to Kevin and others. It's like she's systematically eliminating anyone who might stand in her way. I blinked, shocked. You've noticed too? Hannah nodded. I thought I was the only one. But after hearing what you've been saying, it makes sense. She's been pulling strings for a long time. And no one seems to care. The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. It wasn't just about me anymore. Samantha wasn't just a problem for my career, she was poisoning the entire office, making sure no one else had a chance to succeed. I'm gathering evidence, I told her quietly, leaning in. I'm going to expose her. But I need your help. Hannah's eyes widened, a mix of fear and resolve in her expression. You're serious about this, aren't you? I nodded, my voice steady. I can't let her keep ruining people's lives. Not anymore. I'll help you, she said, her voice low but determined. I've been gathering my own notes, watching her. I've seen things. I've seen her take credit for ideas, backstab people who trusted her. If you're going to expose her, we need to do it right. I was silent for a moment, the weight of our shared mission settling in. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about taking down someone who had made an art of destroying others for her own gain. The pain of the past was still there, but now it was focused on something more than just revenge. It was about justice. I'm in, I said, my voice firm. Let's do this. We spent the next few weeks gathering more evidence, emails, recordings, and other documents that painted a clear picture of Samantha's manipulation. Every time I saw her, every time I watched her slink her way into a meeting with that fake smile, I felt a deep sense of determination. She wasn't going to get away with this. Not anymore. The more I learned, the more the thirst for justice consumed me. I could feel it in every part of me, like a fire burning at my core. It wasn't just about getting back at her anymore. It was about stopping her from causing more damage. I had been a victim, but now, I was becoming something else, a man on a mission. The confrontation was coming. And when it did, I wasn't going to back down. The pieces were falling into place, one by one. I had spent months quietly gathering evidence, emails, memos, offhand comments from people who had finally opened up to me. Samantha's carefully crafted image was beginning to crack. People were starting to notice the small things, the missing reports, the falsely attributed credit for work that wasn't hers, the subtle manipulation of anyone who might pose a threat to her. At first, it was just whispers, fleeting doubts, but those doubts were growing into something bigger. And the best part? She didn't even see it coming. Hannah and I worked side by side, methodically building the case against Samantha. We started leaking the evidence to the right people, those who were still on the fence about her, those who had seen her climb the corporate ladder with little regard for who she stepped on. We didn't want to make it obvious. We couldn't afford to let Samantha know what we were doing, so we played it carefully. I knew if I rushed in with all the facts at once, it would be too easy for her to deny everything, to twist the narrative. I had learned that much from my own experience. No, this had to be surgical. Each piece of evidence had to be planted at the right moment. It wasn't just the paperwork. I began to talk to people, sharing stories of Samantha's manipulation. Some were skeptical at first, but as I continued, they couldn't deny the pattern. The colleagues who had once praised her now looked at her with suspicion, though some still refused to believe that someone they admired could be capable of such deceit. It was also predictable. People didn't want to believe that their perception of her could be wrong. But as the cracks in her facade grew, I could see it, her arrogance started to show. She was slipping up. She became more overt in her actions, no longer bothering to hide the fact that she was stepping on people to climb higher. She thought she was untouchable, and that arrogance was her downfall. One morning, I overheard a conversation between Samantha and Derek, the senior manager who had once been in on her schemes. They were in the break room, talking in hushed tones. "You've been doing great work, Samantha," Derek said, smiling at her with that same patronizing look he'd always had. "The company is really impressed. I think it's time we talk about a promotion. Maybe something higher up, a real leadership role. You've earned it." I froze where I stood, the shock washing over me. This couldn't be happening. She was going to get promoted? After everything she had done? All the people she had sabotaged, lied to, and manipulated? And now the company was going to reward her for it? I wanted to scream, to march right in there and confront them both. But I knew I couldn't. I couldn't let my emotions cloud the plan now. The plan that had taken so long to build, the plan that was almost complete. I stepped back slowly, my mind racing. I had worked so hard to expose her. But now this? Now, after all this effort, the company was rewarding her? It was like a slap in the face. I had believed, no, I had known, that if I exposed her, if I showed people what she had done, they would see her for what she really was. But this promotion was the final nail in the coffin. It was as if everything I had done had been in vain. The anger boiled up inside me, sharp and cold. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It wasn't just about making her pay for the pain she had caused me. It was about justice, about stopping her before she did more damage. But now, as she climbed even higher, I realized how much I still had to lose. I couldn't let her get away with this. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, my mind spinning. I couldn't just let it go. If I did, all of this, every piece of evidence, every conversation, every small victory, would be meaningless. I couldn't let her win. I needed to take more drastic action. I couldn't just expose her quietly anymore. I needed to hit her where it hurt, where it would do the most damage. But the question lingered in my mind, how far was I willing to go? The next day, I made my move. I approached Hannah and laid out my plan. I could tell she was hesitant, nervous even, but she knew what was at stake. "Mark, are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice a mixture of concern and uncertainty. This is risky. If we go public with everything now, Samantha won't just lose her job. She'll go down hard. The company will have no choice but to throw her under the bus." "I don't care anymore," I said, my voice colder than I meant it to be. "I can't let her keep getting away with this. She's not just hurting us, she's hurting everyone she touches. She needs to be stopped, and if the company won't do it, then we will." Hannah nodded, her expression serious. "I'm in, Mark. Let's do it." We spent the next few days preparing. I collected all the evidence I had gathered, the conversations, the emails, the timestamps that proved Samantha's lies. But this time, we weren't going to just email it to HR. We were going to make sure everyone knew what she had done. We had to get the attention of the right people, the decision-makers who would listen. I wasn't playing anymore. I wasn't just seeking vengeance. I was doing this because it was the right thing to do. Samantha's actions had consequences, real consequences, and now I was going to make sure she faced them. The moment of truth came sooner than I expected. I was sitting in the conference room with HR and several other key members of the leadership team when Samantha walked in, as smug and confident as ever. She had no idea what was coming. "I'm sorry, Mark," the HR representative said, "but we've reviewed everything, and we're moving forward with Samantha's promotion. We think she's a good fit for the leadership role." Samantha smiled, her eyes glinting with triumph. But I wasn't going to let it happen. Not like this. I stood up, my hands shaking with adrenaline but my resolve stronger than ever. I think we need to talk about what's really been going on here, I said, looking directly at the HR rep. There's something you should know about Samantha. I could feel the tension in the room, the weight of my words hanging in the air. This was it. This was the tipping point. There was no turning back now. Samantha's smile faltered, but she quickly regained her composure. "Mark, what are you talking about?" she asked, her voice filled with feigned innocence. "Is this really necessary?" "Oh, it's necessary," I said, walking toward the table, the pile of evidence in my hand. "Because everyone here needs to see who you really are." The room was filled with tension, thick and suffocating. I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me, but there was no turning back now. I had waited for this moment for far too long. Every hour spent gathering evidence, every conversation with Hannah, every sleepless night replaying Samantha's betrayal in my head, it all led to this one meeting. The time had come to expose her. Samantha, as always, walked in with her usual confidence, her perfectly tailored suit and that too perfect smile. She didn't know what was coming. She was too busy basking in the glow of her upcoming promotion, too consumed by the thought of climbing even higher, to realize that everything she had done to get there was about to come crashing down. "Mark," she greeted me with that fake sweetness, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "I'm glad you could make it today." I didn't answer her. I just stood there, a calm fury bubbling beneath my skin. The HR representative, Derek, sat at the head of the table, flipping through some papers. "Mark, we've gathered everyone here today to discuss your concerns. Please, take a seat." He gestured to an empty chair. I stood still for a moment longer, my eyes never leaving Samantha's face. She was smiling, clearly unaware of the storm about to hit her. I glanced at the documents in my hand, my final piece of the puzzle. This wasn't just about her ruining my life anymore. This was about everyone she had manipulated, everyone she had destroyed. And it was time the company knew. "I'm not here to sit down," I said quietly, my voice cold, cutting through the room. "I'm here to show you exactly who Samantha really is." Samantha's smile faltered for a fraction of a second, but she quickly regained her composure. "Mark, I don't know what you think." "No, Samantha," I interrupted, my voice gaining strength. "You don't get to talk anymore. Not until everyone knows the truth." I slapped a stack of documents down on the table, the sound of paper against wood sharp in the silence. The room was still for a moment as everyone stared at me, unsure of what to expect. But I wasn't going to let anyone back out now. I wasn't going to let her wriggle her way out of this. "Here's what's really been going on," I began, flipping through the pages. "This isn't just about what you did to me. It's about what you've done to everyone you've come into contact with. I've documented every lie, every manipulation, every time you sabotaged someone to make yourself look better. Every time you took credit for something that wasn't yours. And every time you used someone else to further your own agenda. You have ruined careers, Samantha. You've ruined lives." Her face flushed with anger now, but she couldn't hide the panic behind her eyes. She opened her mouth to speak, but I cut her off again. "You've been playing everyone, Samantha. You've been climbing over people, stepping on their backs, destroying their careers to get ahead. All the while, people thought you were the perfect employee, the golden child. But now, it's all out in the open. Everything. All the lies, all the manipulations, it's all here. Do you want me to keep going?" The room was dead silent. No one spoke. I could see the people around the table shifting uncomfortably, glancing at each other, unsure of how to react. Derek, the HR rep, looked like he was still processing what I was saying. But he didn't interrupt. He didn't stop me. That was the first crack. I continued, knowing that every word I spoke was another blow to the walls Samantha had so carefully constructed. Here's the truth, everyone, I said, my voice unwavering. Samantha isn't just some hardworking, ambitious employee. She's a manipulator. A liar. She's taken credit for other people's work, sabotaged careers, and made sure to climb over anyone who dared to be better than her. But I'm sure none of you were aware of any of this, right? I turned to look directly at Samantha now, watching as her perfect facade began to crumble. Her eyes flickered with something between fear and rage, but she said nothing. She was trapped. And she knew it. Derek shifted in his seat, his voice hesitant as he spoke. Mark, are you sure about this? These are serious accusations. We need to see actual evidence. I smirked, leaning forward. Do you think I came here without it? I slid a folder across the table to Derek, and the room went quiet as he opened it. Inside were all the emails, messages, and documents I had painstakingly gathered over the last few months. Emails where Samantha had undermined Kevin's work, where she had lied to the higher-ups about the progress of projects, and where she had subtly framed colleagues for mistakes they didn't make. Derek flipped through the pages, his face growing more serious with each one. This is all real. His voice was softer now, more uncertain. I have the receipts for everything, Derek, I said, my voice still cold. And if you really want to understand how deep this goes, I have recordings. I have more than enough to expose her for what she really is. The room was silent again. But this time, it was different. The eyes that had once admired Samantha were now filled with doubt. Samantha stood up abruptly, her voice shaking but trying to remain firm. Mark, this is insane. You have no proof. You're just angry and bitter. You're trying to ruin my career because you can't handle what happened between us. This is just. Shut up, I cut in, my voice sharp. You've been lying and manipulating people for years, and now it's time for the truth to come out. Derek cleared his throat and stood up, looking around the room. I'm going to need to speak to HR about this. This is a lot to process. Before he could leave, I heard it. The sound that echoed through the room like the last nail in Samantha's coffin. Effective immediately, Samantha Green's promotion is rescinded, Derek said, his voice trembling, but resolute. We've reviewed the evidence, and we can't ignore it any longer. Your actions have violated the trust we had in you. You're fired. Samantha froze. Her face went white. For the first time since I had known her, I saw real fear in her eyes. Her perfect world was crumbling. She had nowhere to run. Nothing left to hold on to. This isn't happening, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You can't do this to me. Oh, but I can, I said quietly, watching the collapse of everything she had built with her lies. You've hurt so many people, Samantha. You don't get to just walk away from this. The meeting ended in chaos. HR had to deal with the fallout, but all I could do was sit in the corner of the room, numb. It wasn't the victory I had imagined. It didn't feel like a win. Watching Samantha crumble wasn't satisfying. It was hollow. I had won. She was gone, and justice had been served. But in that moment, I realized something. I was no longer the person I used to be. I had become someone driven by vengeance. And while Samantha had gotten what she deserved, I wasn't sure if I could ever truly heal from the anger that had consumed me. The truth had come out. But in doing so, I had lost a part of myself. The days following Samantha's downfall were a blur. The satisfaction of seeing her fired, of knowing she had finally been exposed for the manipulative person she was, didn't bring me the peace I thought it would. In fact, it did quite the opposite. I had spent so much time and energy focused on getting revenge, on seeing her punished for the betrayal she had dealt me, that I didn't stop to think about what that would cost me. Samantha's life had come crashing down. Her perfect career, the golden reputation she had carefully cultivated, was shattered in an instant. It wasn't just the promotion that was taken from her, it was everything. Her credibility, her power, her place in the company, gone. But as I watched her leave the office that day, a strange feeling washed over me. I wasn't happy. Not like I thought I'd be. In truth, her fall from grace felt like the end of something I had never really wanted to be part of in the first place. Her actions had hurt me, yes, but that pain had fueled my obsession. I had wanted to bring her down, to make her pay for what she did to me and the others. But now that it was over, now that the world saw her for who she truly was, I was left with the remnants of the person I had become in the process. I had changed. I wasn't the same Mark I had been when this whole thing started. I didn't just lose Samantha that day, I lost a part of myself too. I spent the next few weeks in a haze of reflection, thinking back to the man I used to be, the man who trusted easily, who believed in fairness, who fought for what was right. Somewhere along the way, I had lost that man. Revenge had consumed me, and I had forgotten what it was like to live without the weight of anger and resentment on my shoulders. But slowly, piece by piece, I started to rebuild, not just my career, but my sense of self. I started forgiving myself for the things I had done in the name of justice. I let go of the anger that had kept me tethered to the past. In its place, I found something I hadn't expected: peace. I reached out to some of the colleagues I had lost touch with, people like Kevin, who had been another victim of Samantha's manipulations. We talked, we caught up, and I realized that in helping expose Samantha, I had also given people the courage to reclaim their own stories. Kevin was back on track with his career, and while it would never be the same, the damage had been limited. Others had started rebuilding too. Even Hannah, who had become a quiet ally, had moved on to bigger things. She had taken the opportunity to step into a new role in a different department, one where she felt her work was finally being recognized. She told me one day, over coffee, that the truth hadn't just helped bring Samantha down, it had helped them all find their footing again. "You were right," Hannah had said. "The truth matters. And sometimes, it's not about bringing someone else down. It's about lifting everyone else up." Her words stuck with me. She was right. It wasn't about the revenge. It was about showing others that the truth, even when it's hard, is worth fighting for. But what I had learned through this whole ordeal was that forgiveness, starting with myself, was the key to moving on. Samantha's fall was swift and unforgiving, but I realized it was a lesson for both of us. She had spent so much time building her career on lies, on stepping over others to get ahead, that when it all came crashing down, it took everything with it. And in the end, it wasn't her destruction that mattered, it was mine. The destruction of the person I used to be. I had spent so much time living in the shadows of my anger that I forgot what it felt like to be free. I couldn't change what happened, but I could choose how I let it define me. And that was the most important lesson of all. It was a month later when I got the call. A new job offer, one that seemed to come out of nowhere, but felt like the right fit. It was from a small startup that had heard about my work, had seen the potential in me that I had long buried under layers of self-doubt and bitterness. They didn't care about the details of my past. They were more interested in who I had become and what I could offer now. I took the job, of course. But this time, it was different. This time, I wasn't walking into the role with the weight of revenge on my shoulders. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. I was doing this for me. My first day at the new job was a quiet one, but as I walked into the office, I felt a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. I was no longer the man who had been consumed by anger and revenge. I was the man who had learned to rebuild, to move on, and to trust in my own worth without needing anyone else to define it for me. As I sat down at my new desk, I took a deep breath and let the weight of the past fall away. I wasn't just starting a new job. I was starting a new chapter. A chapter where I wasn't defined by what others had done to me, but by what I could do for myself. I thought about Samantha one last time that day. I thought about her rise and her fall, the way her life had crumbled under the weight of her own lies. But I didn't feel anger anymore. I didn't feel hatred. All I felt was a quiet understanding that she had made her own choices, and now she had to live with them. For the first time in a long time, I was at peace. And that was enough.